What is up, ladies and germs? Welcome to Boogeyman Radio. I am your host, David, and next to me is my co-host, the
Josh.
great and powerful Oz.
Great and powerful Oz. You know, fun fact. I was in Wizard of Oz once.
Were you?
Yeah, in my high school play, we did Wizard of Oz, and I was the mayor of the Emerald City.
You know why I knew that?
How?
8-Ball told me.
Yeah, that's makes a lot of sense, man. The 8-Ball knows everything.
It's science.
It is science, 100%. 100%.
Hope everybody's having a good night.
What's up, Odd? Good to see you. Yeah,
Odd.
I hope so too. I mean, it's gonna be a great night. I mean, we're gonna talk more about mysterious deaths and some wonderful stuff. But first, how was the week?
Oh, the week was pretty damn good. I don't know if everybody saw what happened after last week's show, but we had some interesting. I had an interesting run-in. So like on our After Dark, we were talking about Marilyn Monroe and her connection to the Kennedys and things like that. And we were getting that little bit of buzz, that feedback. We were hearing it, and I made that joke. Oh, they're listening to us.
Yeah.
Well, the next day, about 10 o'clock in the morning, I got a friend request from a person who was the youngest staff member for the Kennedys when JFK was in office. And I was like, that is the weirdest shit ever. What are the odds? What are the odds that happens?
That's so wild. I mean, you immediately messaged me, and I know you're trying to do the Facebook Live thing, which obviously didn't work out as well. But are they still friends with you?
Yeah. I accepted the friend request. So on the Facebook Live, I think I went live on the YouTube channel as well. What's up, Josh? Charles, Odd says your audio's a bit weak.
Hello.
Your audio sounds fine to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So
what about now?
While I was
go ahead. Sorry, I'm just going through my stuff.
That's fine. So when I went live, on the live, I showed everybody the person who friend requested me. And then I accepted the friend request live, and then I tried to make 2 video calls to him.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this has got to be a scammer. This has got to be.
What are the chances?
What are the odds?
Uh-huh.
So didn't get through. So I decided, all right, we're going to Google this person. First, I looked at the LinkedIn, and then I went to his Twitter page, and it was an active profile on Twitter. Guy posted, I'm way louder. I'm way louder because I'm on here.
I don't know.
Try that. Let's try that.
You sound fine to me.
Okay. Plus, I'm up on the microphone. I usually am like this. I got so many electronics up here, it's getting in the way. So I went to the guy's Twitter page. He has, thousands of posts. And I seen one that he posted the day that he friend requested me on Facebook, saying that he made a new Facebook account. And I'm like, well, that's got to be a real person then at that point. But another interesting fact about this person, though, was he also worked with the Clintons. That's scary.
See, that I didn't know until, obviously, you read his thing and it says normal, not normal, but JFK. And then you said this stuff about the Clintons, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, JFK was Democrat, so Clintons are Democrat. Just kind of
Right.
makes sense. Kind of
Yeah.
makes sense.
So the guy's like 80 years old. Was a trial lawyer, or is
Mm-hmm.
still. I don't know if he is still. He was a trial lawyer and worked in Virginia and D.C. And yeah, so now I'm friends with this guy on the Facebook page, and thinking I might contact him sometime and be like, hey, you want to talk conspiracy a little bit, and maybe you can shed some light on some things.
Exactly. No reply.
I haven't sent him a message yet.
Oh.
Maybe he'll be like, oh, you know what? Deathbed confessional, definitely yours. And I'm gonna be like, no, thank you. Not if you're tied to the Clintons and it's about the Clintons.
Exactly. Only. Yeah. No. That
Yeah,
would be
never got a
so scary.
response.
That would be so scary. No thanks.
I feel like something else happened this weekend, and I was gonna tell you about, and I completely forgot. Well, there was something else that happened, but I can't talk about it.
Uh oh.
Out of uh, Out of friendship, I can't really discuss it. Does include a. I didn't sign an NDA, but he did, so I can't talk about it.
Oh. Well, maybe eventually when they announce whoever said friend is,
Yeah.
whenever they announce it, then we can talk about it.
You know what's funny is I had over the last 3 weeks, last few weeks, I've had a couple friends that have come to me about this kind of thing. And I'm like,
Awesome.
I feel like one of those inside reporters. You know what I mean? But I can't report anything.
No, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean because I don't know what we're talking about.
Well, think of like the journalists who like break stories before they're actually announced.
Yeah.
That would be me. But I'm not breaking the story. I'm just saying, man, I'm holding on to all this information. I want to let it out because number one, it's cool,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of these guys, and
Mhm.
you know, just want to share friends
Well, of course,
achievements.
you want to help in their success.
Yeah.
Now there is a little bit of echo on your end from me. I can hear me clearly.
Oh my god.
Your sound system, though.
You guys sound. Everything sounds fine on my end.
It's because it's a hot mic.
Hot mic. Hot mic.
Hot mic.
So hot.
No, I think it's we can hear me through the speakers being picked up on your microphone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's test that. Shall we?
Yep.
We have to do some like further testing now because like for some reason,
Just get a headset.
you buy me a headset.
The reverb. Are you saying like I'm too loud? Like what does he mean?
Reverb is echoey. You're echoey.
Yeah. So that's the echoey. Yes, he's hearing me through you.
This was never an issue before last week.
I know.
I don't know why that is because I've had this set up for over a month now.
Hold on. Can you hear anything? Yeah, I can
Me?
hear me now. Nope, can't hear me now.
Huh.
Is it gone odd? Yeah, because I don't hear it now. It was just picking up from the microphone.
That's interesting.
We're gonna have to work on that sound system after the show.
No, I mean, everything was the same. I just don't know what it is.
Do the earbuds hurt your ears at all after a while? Okay, good.
No, these are.
I mean, if you think about it, when you look at like podcasts and stuff, everybody's wearing headphones of some sort.
Yeah, I know. And I would get better headphones, but I can't afford them, especially after hitting a deer.
Yeah, that's something else that happened this week.
That is something else.
Deer.
I hit a deer.
Jeez,
bastard.
Man. What kind of deer was it?
A live one.
Was it a doe? Was it a buck? Was it a baby deer?
As far as I could tell, it was a doe. It was a big one too. But I was slowing down, and that's the bitch of it. Like I slowed down, and I still hit this bastard. He still went flying about 10, 20 feet, and I'm mad that he didn't die, or she didn't die, or whatever it is. I'm mad that it didn't die, because if I'm going to hit a deer, best believe I want that fucker dead.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I would rather see it dead on the road than like paralyzed from the waist down trying to scramble and shit.
Exactly. That would be miserable.
But I hit it
out of its misery. Ugh.
I hit it, pulled over to check the damage, and I looked over at the road, and it was gone, so I have no idea where it went. But
hopped off along.
now I'm trying to figure out if it's going to be worth going through the insurance company and paying a $500 deductible,
Oof.
or just paying for it myself and be done with it.
How much would it be paying for yourself? Do you know?
Uh, to get a whole front end assembly kit, like for the grill, the bumper, and headlight, um, we're probably $200 to $300,
Which is cheaper than the down. Yeah.
and then plus labor on top of that to get it
It makes
installed.
sense.
Yeah,
But I mean, the labor on top of that's going to be another $200 or $300.
probably 200, I would assume. Hey, Cassie.
Hey, Cassie. Good to see you.
So yeah, that happened.
Rough, man. Absolutely rough.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a new week, right? New things are coming, possibly out of the woodworks. You never know, right?
Possibly. What about you?
Well, I haven't really had much of a big week or anything except for the Chiefs game, so that's wonderful.
Yes.
The only thing, I mean, my entire family pretty much has COVID, and I haven't seen them in like 2 or 3 weeks, so it's just like I feel like I'm safe. I'm not really worried about it either way if they did or did not. Like, they'll be fine. I'll be fine. But yeah, I'm really excited about the Chiefs. They won. That was like the game of games.
Dude, that was an epic one. I'm not even a fan of either team, but that was amazing.
That was a great game. I mean, two all-star quarterbacks showed up to play, and I can't be mad at our team. Like, and going into the game, I even had a positive mindset. I was like, even if the Chiefs, what?
You can be mad at the defense. It's okay.
Oh, I can be mad at the defense, yeah, because the defense secondary sucks. Well, it didn't help that Tyrann Mathieu went out with an injury too, so.
Yeah.
But hopefully he'll rest up for next week. Well, I don't know how he's doing on the injured report, so yay. But I was going into it with a positive mind, where if we lose, they're clearly the better team. If we win, yay, obviously. But the fact that it was just a fight from the very beginning was like my heart. I thought I was going to go to the hospital because of how freaking ridiculous my heart was. Like, Josh, I do have to agree with you. Those overtime rules do suck. But in fairness, the Chiefs did protest to change it, and the Bills were one of the teams that shot it down. So,
and honestly, to be fair, your defense still has to show up and play.
Oh, absolutely.
That's still part of your team. It's not going to be all offense. Yeah. Otherwise, they should just do the college football rule, put them on the 2-yard line.
Then it would be another show of the Chiefs in Tampa Bay, where the Tampa Bay just wrecked us defense, or their offense destroyed our defense, and our offense couldn't do anything against their defense. Like, we couldn't catch the ball, nothing. We did not show up to play. So it's just like, it's one of those things. But yeah, you're right. They need to show up, and like, why do you fall down? Like, he was wide open. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. There was definitely out coaching was done on both sides. I have mixed feelings about coach play calling, like our coach's play calling, their style. But there at the end of the game, those last two plays where it was pass to Tyreek, pass to Kelsey.
How do you not mirror him?
That was all their call. That was not coach call. That was nothing. There's audio out there of Kels, or I guess it's Kels, telling Tyreek like, "Hey, you come up behind me." Or, not exactly what I'm saying, but he gave him a little bit of advice. Tyreek did it, and that's what led to that drive or that run by Tyreek or that pass catch. And then Kelsey saw the seam, and that's what led to the Kelsey pass or setting up for the touch or the field goal. So
yeah,
I can't be mad. It was a great game.
It was a great game.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm buzzing. But yes, I agree. They should be. Yeah, the next game is going to be very interesting with the Bengals.
Hey, I will say,
cover Chase. We have to cover Chase.
I will say, outside of football, I don't know if anybody saw it. If you guys saw it, this past Friday, we uploaded a video. We started doing our 10 haunted places, and the first video was about Kansas. We're going to have some new ones coming up soon. If you want a different video, if you guys want to name states, and we'll pick one out of the comments, not the chat, but put it down in the comments of this video so we can go back and see it. Put down your top 3 states that you want to see, and we'll work on getting those ones out.
Yep.
Faster than.
Yes.
I mean, eventually we're going to do every state, but
yeah,
we'll get those out faster. So drop the comments in the comment section.
But yeah, that's pretty much how my week's been, and it's been an interesting one, sort of, but not really. So
Right.
it's right now it's our slow season, and I'm sick of the cold weather.
If it's gonna be cold, it needs to snow. If it's not gonna snow, then it needs to just warm the fuck up.
Yep. But spring will be here before we know it. So, and then we'll be complaining about bugs and other crap.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I have such a busy year planned.
You do have a busy year.
I don't mind it. I don't mind
I
it.
don't mind it either. I want to get through 2022 winter really badly.
Hey guys, also after tonight's show, we're going to be going live on our After Dark for more mysterious deaths. We had a pretty good show last week on both, and we're going to continue this show over there at 9:15. So if you want to check it out, sign up for Patreon, become part of the After Dark team, and you get access to all the older videos as well as new videos. And on top of that, I opened up a haunting history store, and at this store, you can actually pick up your own Boogeyman Radio T-shirt, as well as other various paranormal T-shirts. I'm wearing one, in fact, the Poultrygeist is one I'm wearing. But if you become a Patreon, become a member of Patreon, and we'll be hooking you guys up with a discount on some of these items. And there's on the store you could get like home accessories and stuff with all these different logos and things like that. So check that out. Also,
I love that shirt.
Yeah, see, Poultrygeist. It's worn. I've had this for like a couple years now.
Still,
I've gotten a lot of comments at some Paracons when I wear this. Yeah.
Trademark.
I should. I think I did, actually. I think. Speaking of Paracons, the Haunting History Paracon is this October 7th and 8th in Joplin, Missouri. We've got a good lineup of speakers so far, and we are also having an awesome concert with appearances by Josh Hurd from Malvern Manor and Randall Shreve, who maybe I'll let it play a little bit of his music on one of these shows and advertise him too.
Yeah.
But we're also going to have a gallery reading by Jessica Potter on the 7th. After the event, she's going to do a gallery reading for people. You can get your tickets on Eventbrite or just visit the... Can you still get John's face as a shower curtain? I don't have that up anymore. But if you are serious, I can make it happen. But yeah, we've got a lot of cool events going on, and I'm also thinking about instead of doing just like a film contest, I'm thinking of opening it up for paranormal teams who have their own shows to submit their best episode.
Oh, that would be awesome!
And it'll get played in theater in front of people, and all that. So
that would be amazing. I'm so excited for this Paracon. I've already requested days off. I need to see if I can book a hotel in advance or something.
Yeah.
Because that way I can, just stay down there.
Or just come stay with me.
Or I can just come stay with you.
Yeah. I'm planning on doing a little bit of renovating in here.
So are you going to be just going back and forth the entire time? Just okay. So we're not going to stay down in Joplin. We're going to drive back.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's only like 45 minutes away from me.
That's fair.
Not a bad drive.
No, not at all.
I like knowing it was an option, but I can't do that to my kids.
Who's this creepy man, Mom?
Can't do what?
I'm sure your kids aren't that young, but yeah.
I think I'm missing something.
She can't do the shower curtain.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you just like
old dude.
You could do that to your kids.
You could so do that to your kids. I'd do that to my kids. Just scar them for life. Like, who is this guy? It's a friend of mine. Don't worry about it.
I'll just get a full-size figure of John going like this. Ooh.
Oh, man. That'd be wild.
So, yeah.
Anyway. I think that is probably like a background thing. Not just like,
Like one of those, I can't even think of what they were called. No, you remember, how the NFL had like those cutouts of the players you put on the wall?
Oh, yeah.
Get one of John.
Oh, man. What are those? Big
Fatheads.
Yes.
Yes. get one of those of John and just like slap it up in
That would
Malvern
be
or something.
amazing. Yes. Put it on one of the doors. Like that would
Hmm.
be perfect.
Yeah,
Like
buddy.
pick his room. Oh, it'd be one of the hallway rooms. Like on the front of the hallway. Like you know what I'm saying?
Oh no, I put him in a nursing home wing.
That's what I'm saying. Down in the nursing home. Do it in the
Oh,
nursing
okay.
home. And it'd be one of those rooms along the nursing home. I think it'd be perfect.
Yeah. Also, a friend of mine just bought a hospital and announced that this week, like an
What?
old hospital,
Where at?
Ellsworth, Kansas.
No idea where that's at.
Yeah, it's in the middle of Kansas. It's a nice looking building. I
Okay.
mean, as far as being old and all that stuff. Uh,
Do you know the
but
dates possibly? Like how old it is?
1920s is when it
Okay.
opened. Closed down in '99. It's
Okay.
four stories. He said it's
Good.
about 40,000 square feet or something like that.
Whoa.
It's
Has he
huge.
invited you out there yet?
Yeah,
Good.
I
Good.
talked to him. I was like, man, it'd be cool to just like stay in there for an entire week,
Oh yeah.
like just sleeping in the
Just
hospitals,
fresh.
all that good
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, okay. So you
so
said
that
it's
might
in
happen.
some. If Ellsworth has a Casey's or what have you,
They
you'd
do.
be fine. See, there you
Yeah.
go. You're good. That's all you need for a week.
Yep.
Easy.
No working toilet, but you just go down to the gas station. I
Yeah,
mean,
easy.
just pee
Well,
out back and
I get a
poop
shower.
at the
Guess
gas
you're not
station.
showering for a week.
I'll bring wipes.
There you go. Some cleaning wipes. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
All
I
right.
have. All right, let's get it.
Let's jump into this.
All right.
I'm gonna let you kick this one off
Okay.
because I've got like a
Oh
shit ton
yes.
of notes.
Yes, I'm gonna talk about Tupac and Biggie for a minute. So bear with me, everybody. Love you all. I'm not gonna be able to see your comments, so I hope you. Well, unless Dave monitors them for me.
I'll monitor them.
But I'm gonna be reading. Good gosh, this guy reading again. All right, so we'll go in with a little bit of a backstory about Biggie and Tupac, like for all those that don't know, if you don't know.
If you don't know who Tupac is, shame on you.
Yeah, that's rap icon, but you know that's neither here nor there. So during the early 1990s, rap became the biggest music in America, and its leading artists not only started to appear in the pop charts, but also in the news headlines. Increasingly, the new breed of rappers not only described the gangster life, but they started to live it too. Two of the leading names in the world of gangster rap were Tupac Shakur and Notorious B.I.G., aka Christopher Wallace or Biggest Smalls.
Biggie.
Exactly. Initially friends, they soon became sworn rivals. In fact, the two men seemed to be polar opposites. Tupac was based Tupac Tupac. He
Close.
was
It's a 20 pack, but whatever.
exactly. It's not a 1 pack. It's a 2 pack. Anyways, he was based on the West Coast while Biggie was based on the East Coast. So back in the 80s and 90s. Oh, there you go. That's a
20 pack.
that's a 20 pack right there. I got a
That's for
12
after the
pack.
show.
I got a 12 pack upstairs, I think. But so during the 80s and 90s when that whole people had nothing else to complain about except for if you were on the east side of the United States or west side of the United States. I look back and think that that's the stupidest shit in the world. Oh, east side's better. No, west side's better. Fuck you. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
You know what it is, and I get a lot of grief for saying it this way, but it's tribal mentality,
It
is what it
is.
is.
It keeps us divided and distracted and against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Wonder who set that system up and still going today. All right. So, Tupac was signed to one leading rap label, Death Row, while Biggie was signed to its leading competitor, Bad Boy. Even their physique were very different. Tupac was weary and lean, while Biggie, in his name suggests, was big all around. Both of them, however, were shot down in their prime, and circumstances of their murders have kept the conspiracy theorists busy since. Tupac was born in the Bronx of New York City on 16th of June, 1971. His given name was Leslane Parrish Crooks. I did not know that either, so hey, there we go. But soon after his birth, his mother, Afeni, a member of the Black Panthers, changed his name to Tupac Amaru Shakur. He had a poverty-stricken transient childhood in New York before moving to Baltimore, where he attended Baltimore School for the Arts during his teens and studied dance and theater. However, when the family moved again, this time to Marin County, California, that's a whole polar opposite, dude.
Yeah.
He went to the other side of the states. Freaking
Yeah.
nuts. Tupac started to go off the rails and became embroiled in drug dealings. Wow, go to California, nothing but drugs.
Who knew?
Right, who would have figured? He also started getting seriously involved in rap music, making his record debut in 1990. In the following year, his acting training paid off when he won a lead part in the gangster film Juice. In the same year, 1991, he also released his first album. So, shot in the head and survived. All of a sudden, Tupac was a star with a string of hit records and several more film appearances. At the same time, however, he became involved in serious violent incidences. In one of these, in Oakland in 1991, Tupac was the victim of police brutality. In another, he shot two policemen in Atlanta because he thought they were abusing a black motorcyclist. Charges against Tupac were dropped, however, when the police officers were discovered to be intoxicated and in possession of stolen weapons. In December of 1993, Tupac was charged with sexually abusing a woman in his hotel room and was subsequently sentenced to 4 years in prison. While still on remand, though, Tupac was shot 5 times by two men in New York recording studio. He survived despite being shot in the head, and in subsequent interviews said that he believed Biggie, who up until then had considered a friend, and Biggie's label boss Sean Puffy Combs were responsible for the attack. So, gets shot in the head, survives.
Yeah.
Wild.
Oh yeah.
In the following year, February 1995, Tupac began his prison sentence. He was released after 8 months when his own label boss, Suge Knight, put up $1.4 million bail. Whoa, that's a chunk of change for the
Dude,
90s.
they were rolling. They were rolling
Yeah, they
in
were.
the 90s, man.
Those records, man, I tell you what. In return for this, however, Tupac had to agree to release 3 albums for Knight's Death Row Records. That's a fair trade.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, for the first of these albums, All Eyes on Me, sold more than 9 million copies. Disturbingly, the video for the single I Ain't Mad at Ya, filmed a month before his death, showed Tupac being shot and killed. Immediately before his death, Tupac recorded another album, The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, using the pseudonym Machiavelli. That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much mysteriousness around that last album.
Well, the fact that he, pretty much predicted his death or death.
Oh yeah.
If he faked it, who knows? But
well, there's one of his songs that if you play backwards, it sounds like he's saying "I'm alive."
Right.
Yeah, and I just can't think of which. Maybe it'll mention it in here. But anyways, so a prophetic album. The album was full of death-related imagery and soon proved prophetic. On December 7th, 1996, Tupac Shakur was hit 4 times, in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas after watching a boxing match between Mike Tyson and Bruce Seldon. He died from the 4 gunshot wounds in Las Vegas University Medical Center Hospital 6 days later, on February 13th. The Las Vegas police never found the culprits, but they believe that Tupac's killer were Southside Crips. The evidence for this was that a few hours earlier, Tupac had been involved in a fight in a hotel lobby with a 21-year-old Crip named Baby Lane Anderson. Anderson was interviewed by the police, but not charged with murder. Witnesses, unsurprisingly, were reluctant to come forward. No surprise. Within the rap world, however, suspicion soon fell on Biggie Smalls and Bad Boy Records. Rumors abounded that Biggie had paid the Crips to kill Tupac. Suspicion intensified when Tupac's friend Yefu Gaddafi Fula, I'm gonna say that I butchered that. Yafu, sure. Anyways, who had been present at the shooting, was believed to know the killer's identity, was killed himself in an execution-style murder in New Jersey. He was silenced.
Oh, over on the East Coast, was it?
Yeah. Joyzy, right? While the rumors about Biggie's involvement were not enough to cause the police to act, it came as no surprise to the public when, on March 9, 1997, just 2 years after Tupac's murder, Biggie himself was gunned down in Las Vegas when leaving a party given by Vibe magazine. Once again, the police were unable to find a witness who was prepared to come forward to identify the gunman, and the case remains unsolved. However, this time, suspicion fell upon Tupac's label boss, Suge Knight. So were the two fallen rappers simply victims of gang culture and that had run out of control, or were their murders deliberately brought about by their rap music rivals? A story in Los Angeles Times purported to prove that Biggie had ordered Tupac's killing, paid the killers, and provided them with the gun. The writer even alleged that Biggie had been in Los Angeles at the time. He did not explain, however, that no one had noticed the presence of a 6'3", 300-pound rapper and his entourage. And in due course, clear evidence was produced to demonstrate that Biggie had been in New York recording studio at the time of Tupac's death. Worth more dead or alive? This is an interesting theory. Stitches get stitches. That's so true. And they wind up in ditches. Man, full of it today. So, interest in the case was reignited in 2002 by the documentary Biggie and Tupac, made by British filmmaker Nick Broomfield. The film pointed towards a sensational conclusion that Suge Knight might have been responsible for murdering his own artist, Tupac, and that he had then killed Biggie in order to cover up the initial murder, so that it would look like a revenge killing. The motive for this, supposedly, was that Tupac was about to leave death row for having discovered that Knight was cheating him of royalties. At the point, Knight decided Tupac was worth more to him dead than alive, a theory born out of by the enormous success of Tupac's posthumous releases. This idea was backed up by the alleged prison confession by Knight to another inmate, and also by Knight's long record of using violence to get his own way in business deals. It is neat. It is a neat theory, but one with a lot of holes in it. For starters, Knight was sitting next to Tupac when the car they were in was sprayed. That's a perfect cover-up. With
Well, being when a car is getting sprayed, it's hard to avoid killing everybody.
True.
If you're in the front seat and we're spraying the front seat,
different story.
I'm sorry if you die, but like we're just doing our job.
But he still survived.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
One bullet nicked Knight's head. It would have been an incredibly risky plan for Knight to be executed. Secondly, if the murder of Biggie was committed in order to cover up the killing of Tupac, surely he would have carried it out sooner and not waited 2 years. Also, Knight would have inevitably have been a suspect in Biggie's murder. That said, it is a lot more plausible than other conspiracy theory that surrounds the case, which suggests that Tupac, like Elvis, is not dead at all. The evidence for this supposition is a familiar mix of a song lyric, allegedly to point out that Tupac having faked his own death. The fact that his last album had a picture of himself being crucified, Jesus was resurrected after crucifixion, and the use of the name Machiavelli for the last album. This was inspired by his reading of Machiavelli.
I think it's pronounced Machiavelli.
It's not Machiavelli.
That's
or Tupac's, yes, but Machiavelli is the actual person.
Okay.
Because there's an I. While Tupac's is Makaveli.
Okay.
This one is, yeah, anyways. Who once wrote that faking one's death is a useful tactic to fooling one's enemies. Interesting. Fans have added on an ever more tenuous list of supposed clues to Tupac's fake death. However, they have a hard time gainsaying the evidence to the contrary that was provided by the 1997 publication of a leaked photograph showing Tupac badly damaged corpse lying on the autopsy table.
Yeah.
And that is the Tupac and Biggie conspiracy.
Well, I'm a firm believer that Tupac is dead. But as far as his killer goes, it's Puff Daddy. Come on. Bad Boy Records was run by Puff Daddy. And
Puff Daddy wanted him out of the way.
Yeah, and the gang shit was real,
Oh yeah, it was.
People nowadays, like if they didn't live through that time, they weren't around that time, they didn't see that shit. They wouldn't believe how hard it was. It was a terrifying, like those areas and that lifestyle it was fucking terrifying to be in. I mean, even that lifestyle reached out across the country. Like Florida, Dade County got really bad with it. I remember growing up down in Arkansas. I lived in Arkansas for a little while, and the town I lived in, they had their own versions of the Bloods and Crips. A bunch of retards, basically. Just people wanting to belong to something, really, but they didn't really. act the way it is done on the East and West Coast.
Yeah,
Um,
they're trying to be mafia, but it's not going to happen.
yeah, and again, it all jumps back to that tribal mentality. And but with Puff Daddy, I think Puff Daddy ordered the hit on Tupac because
Yeah.
of um, oh, what is that song? The Tupac song where it's just a diss track basically, and he totally goes off on Death Row or not Death Row, Bad
Bad boy.
Boy and Biggie, and yeah, he
Do
just
you
goes
so?
off on
Do you
everybody
think if
associated with
Biggie
Bad Boy.
knew about the hit, do you think he would try to stop it or go along with it?
He probably would have went along with it.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have stopped it. I mean, they were good friends for a long time. Big even slept on Tupac's couch.
So do you think in revenge Suge took Biggie out?
I think Biggie was probably planning a revenge and got dropped.
Wait, Biggie was planning a revenge.
Yeah,
Why would Biggie be planning a revenge?
against whoever hit Tupac, since he's under Bad Boy, and he probably didn't want Tupac to die.
Yeah.
But you know, if if he found out that Puff Daddy was behind the hit, he probably was going to take some kind of vengeance against Puff Daddy, or just leave Bad Boy record.
Mm,
And who knows?
it's just a whole shadow of conspiracy. But we know for a fact it was murder, so.
Um, Tupac was too much of an attention seeker for him to still be playing dead. I don't know if that's 100% true. A lot of his earlier songs were, well, even some of his later songs too, was more about giving back to the community. It was more about being humble and everything, and uh, he was trying to give back a little bit through his
Well, I
music.
think what he means is like Tupac loved being in the limelight and helping out how he could. Not necessarily like all about me, but he liked having that fame and that spotlight.
Yeah,
But
but
he
if he
knew that he could make a difference with it, though.
but if he had faked his death, do you think he would have appeared already by now?
No, because if he would have faked his death on purpose, then you fake your death on purpose. It's just, it's a lot. It's the basis of every like.
Well, how
It's the
often do
basis.
people report seeing him? That's the thing.
Oh,
Like,
I don't know. I'm just saying,
you
like,
never see it
well,
online except for
he could
maybe
have
once
got
or
a face
twice.
change. Plastic surgery is a rampant thing nowadays. But I'm
You
just
still,
saying, like, it's the basis for every celebrity conspiracy theory where it's like, hey, they can't take the fame anymore because paparazzi's in their face 24/7. So they off
maybe.
themselves and they don't want to be famous anymore. They just want to live a simple, humble life.
Well, maybe that's what happened to our next mysterious death. Maybe. So this one's been in the news kind of lately. Big news that's come out this past week. This next one, we're going to talk about another musician,
Yes.
Kurt Cobain.
Ba-boom.
Um, so Kurt Cobain in 1994 was found dead at his home in Seattle. Um, that supposedly shot himself with a shotgun, um, and left a suicide note. The circumstances around his death are what made a lot of people believe that this wasn't a suicide but was a murder. And there's a lot of information out there that suggests one way or the other. But first, I'm going to just kind of put this out there as uh, a suicide. So, what do we have to go on about it being a suicide? Number one, it's Seattle, and it rains constantly up in that area. So, a lot of people are depressed.
Yeah, seasonal depression's real.
Number two, he was famous, was around a lot of drugs, did a lot of drugs, including heroin. Um, so, I mean, that depression on top of the drug use could influence people into behaving a certain way. Um, Outside of that, I don't really see a reason why this guy would be depressed. Um, I got to watch this movie, and after the show, I'll post a link in the comment section, and I'll pin it to the comment section. It was a movie about Kurt Cobain's death, and I'll go into details after this article. Dang it, I didn't want to do that. Let me open up this article. So, this article is entitled "Why Some People Think Kurt actually was murdered. Um, so I'll get into this, and then I'll get into my notes because I got a shit ton of notes. In 1994, Kurt Cobain's death shocked the world. Fans were horrified that their idol had shot himself, but others believed that someone else had pulled the trigger. Let's see.
Mm.
Cobain's death now and then has been ruled a suicide, but uh, private investigator Tom Grant, who took a close look at the case while it was unfolding, believes that Kurt Cobain was murdered. Specifically, Grant thinks that Cobain's wife, Courtney Love, was involved in a conspiracy that resulted in the murder of the grunge star. While Grant has been the most vocal believer of this theory over years, investigative journalists Ian Halperin and Max Wallace have also publicly supported this point of view. In fact, Halperin and Wallace have even published books that make the case that Cobain was murdered. Perhaps most shockingly, Cobain's own grandfather raised questions about his grandson's death. And at one point, he was even quoted saying that he believed Cobain had been murdered. However, many others believe that Grant's idea is just a conspiracy theory. Seattle police detectives, a forensic linguist, and even Nirvana's former manager have maintained their belief that the suicide ruling was correct. What's more, many of Cobain's family members and friends seem to have accepted the official story without raising questions, at least publicly. So, was he murdered or did he die by suicide as authorities ruled years ago? Let's look at the possibilities. Let me get past some of this about his history. Okay. So he was plagued by depression, chronic stomach pain, and an addiction to heroin. Uh, Cobain's final days were nothing if not tragic and harrowing. And according to Seattle police, it all culminated with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The bullet had struck his head through his mouth. So, yeah. Cobain's family and friends were devastated by the news. Grief-stricken fans were left to ponder why their hero's voice had been silenced. And so, perhaps, it was natural for some to believe Cobain was murdered. But this Grant fella, Tom Grant, took it a step further. Just a few days before his death, on April 5th of 94, Kurt Cobain ran away from the Exodus Recovery Center in Marina del Rey, California. In response, Courtney Love hired Tom Grant, a former detective with the LA County Sheriff's Department, who became a private investigator, to go look for him. It was initially reported that Cobain's mother, Wendy O'Connor, had filed a missing persons report, stating that the Nirvana frontman had a shotgun and may be suicidal. But, according to Grant, it was actually Courtney Love who had filed the missing persons report in O'Connor's name. It's unclear why Love would have wanted to pose as O'Connor, but Grant used this information as part of his overall summary of events, hinting that Love was being elusive about her husband early on in the investigation. After Kurt's body was discovered, Grant felt bewildered when he heard of the suicide ruling. Despite the official story given by authorities, Grant clearly had some doubts. But it wasn't until December of 1994 that he started publicly raising questions about Cobain's death and talking about the suspicious things he had observed during his investigation. There are several reasons why Tom Grant thinks Cobain was murdered, but at the core of his reasoning lies the belief that Cobain couldn't have injected himself with such a large amount of heroin. So I'm going to go into a little bit of the story here. So like I said, this movie was actually really good. It's a documentary on Tom Grant and his investigation. And he starts from when he was hired by Courtney Love to even after and what he's pursuing now. In it, you'll actually hear conversations that he had recorded with Courtney Love. And I guess he made it a point to record every phone conversation he had with anybody.
Wow.
And record meetings that he had with people.
Maybe
including,
he knew that was coming.
I think he knew something was going to go down. So in the film, Cobain's friend who was also a heroin addict. Um, he stated that he was not suicidal. He said he bought the gun for Kurt um, and put it under his name because I guess there was a before the day he went to rehab or something like that. There was a burglary at his house, and the police confiscated all of his guns. So he bought the gun for Kurt and put it in his name.
Yeah.
Uh, so Courtney, she put out fake news reports. She filed missing persons report under his mom's name, and also later that week, she had a new album coming out, and
Really?
yeah, so apparently she had put this. She had said in a conversation that, um, she put a fake news report out about her uh, attempted suicide, but she never did, of course. And she said that news would just kind of make her name be out there right before the album release, so
Mm-hmm.
people, you know, buy up her albums and stuff. She was under the impression if it sells more albums, whatever. Um, so so yeah, she would file these fake news reports, and throughout the process, she kept lying to Grant, the investigator that she hired. And when she hired him, she told him some information that later on turned out to be not correct,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll get into that later. Um, so yeah, Kurt's family and friends, even his closest friends, nobody ever thought he was suicidal. Everybody had really nice things to say about him. He was always upbeat and happy and everything like that. And even in his interviews, he would joke around and put on the facade. But even Robin Williams was supposedly suicidal and depressed. Um, so another thing that points to Courtney, uh, Kurt talked to his lawyer about removing Courtney from his will.
Mm.
And he also wanted a divorce from Courtney. Courtney seemed to be very controlling, and she also thought Kurt was having an affair with her bass player and another woman who was his drug dealer, and she was like really jealous and suspicious and all this crap. Um, they also went on to talk about, in the article, the police and the media um, were saying that he had stomach pains. He was suffering from stomach pains and everything, which he did. He did for 6 years. And eventually he actually got prescribed the right treatment and had no more pain. I don't remember what drug they gave him for his stomach, but there was a video interview that he did, and somebody asked him about his stomach pain. He's all like, "That's all taken care of. I've been pain free for like a year, and all that stuff." So he was good at that. So I mean that debunks part of the reasoning behind his suicide, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so there's a rumor out there. Oh wait. Yeah, I'm on the right one. Okay. So there's a rumor out there that the Cobain family was cursed. Let me close
Really?
this out. Yeah. Um, I'm looking at the chat real quick before I go on any further.
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain couldn't have pulled the trigger on the shotgun in the position his body was found in. We'll get to that. Odd. We'll get to that. They weren't the first to make it, but okay. All right. So I'll continue. So the Cobain family was said to be plagued with suicides. Right. This is another thing that was kind of put out there by an unknown source, put out to the media for them to report. So to disprove that, his Kurt's grandfather was an actual police officer, and one day he walks into a bar. Sitting at the bar, somehow his gun fell out of his holster and hit the ground. And when it hit the ground, it discharged.
Oh.
And his grandfather stood up, looked around, and said, "Is everyone okay?" And then he fell over dead from the
Oh
gunshot
God.
wound. So the gun discharged, and he accidentally shot himself or got shot.
Oh.
His uncle, Leland's brother, which is Leland's his dad, his uncle was drunk and fell down a flight of stairs, and later died from complications from that fall. So those were two supposed suicides that ran in his family, and that information people believe is put out there by Courtney because she made up a bunch of lies about a lot of stuff. Um, Supporting the thought of suicide, people have talked about a suicide attempt that happened in Rome not too long before his actual suicide.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of typing.
I am typing something, but I'm also listening.
Okay. So the Rome suicide attempt incident, uh,
Yes.
it was never called a suicide attempt by the media. It was always called an accidental overdose of his prescription and had some champagne. So he had a little too much champagne on top of his prescriptions, and you know he had to go to the hospital and all that stuff. But it was all accidental. It wasn't anything that he attempted. But the first person to actually call it a suicide attempt was Courtney Love.
Really?
Um, yeah, all of his suicide attempts were put out there by Courtney. She was the one that said everything was a suicide attempt. So all of his incidents, not so much. I think I skipped ahead a few. No, I didn't. Okay. So the day before his body was found, uh, there was a gentleman that was staying at the house for a few days. He was like the he was like staying at the house like as a house sitter,
Yeah.
and his name was Callie, and he happened to be Courtney's ex boyfriend, and they remained friends. And so he stayed at the house during this time. Courtney, the PI, she actually wanted this guy to go to the house and check for a gun. He went there with a friend of Kurt's and Courtney's, and they went through the house. There was nobody else in the house,
Hmm.
um, but they didn't find any gun. Um, so eventually, Courtney wanted them to go back the day before. She said that there was a gun that the shotgun was hidden in a hidden compartment in the closet. Um, so they went back there. And when they went back there, there was some letter that they found on the stairs, and he details this in the film. And he put
Really?
it back. It was from Callie, and it seemed really suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even Rosemary Carroll, who was a close friend of Kurt and Courtney, as well as their attorney, she believed that the letter was written. She believed that the letter was written after Cobain's death because of how suspicious it sounded.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, she thought the worst of that. Even she thought it was suspicious. And if you hear what the letter read, it sounds retardedly suspicious. Um, so they left. The investigator and him left. And then the next day, Kurt's body was found. Um,
Hmm.
he was found by an electrician in the green room or greenhouse room above the garage. And the thing was, the private investigator never noticed the greenhouse there, the greenhouse room. Um, a lot of people that have been there during the daylight even never even noticed the room. So it wasn't like it was right there for everybody to see, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though if you look at pictures, you clearly see it because it's the focus of the pictures.
It makes
Uh,
sense.
but they never went to the greenhouse room, so that they didn't know, or well, the PI didn't know it. Grant didn't know it. Um, so when the police got there, they basically ruled it a suicide on the same day that they found his body.
Mm.
Um, and according to a lot of police officials, that's not standard operation. You don't announce a suicide the same day. There's a death investigation, and then you release a statement. And they just went ahead and released a statement saying it was suicide. But the toxicology report showed that, or was reported that Kurt had 3 times the lethal dose of heroin in his system. 3 times the lethal dose. He could not have been able to kill himself with a shotgun after a dosage like that. It doesn't take long for heroin to kick in at just like
Yeah,
a
no,
regular
it doesn't.
dose. And then on top of that, 3 times the lethal dose.
Yeah.
Um, he would have been his dick would have been in the dirt.
Oh, absolutely.
They also noticed that when the cops arrived, they had to break a window to unlock the door because the doorknob to the greenhouse was locked.
Really.
It had no deadbolt. It was just one of those little twist locks on the door handle. So why would he lock himself in the green room to commit suicide? Or the greenhouse room? Um,
Maybe some peace and quiet.
one report, one police report stated that there was a stool blocking the entrance when other police reports filed did not state that. The homicide detective that was working the case quit when it was found that he planned on planting stolen evidence at another homicide scene. So the detective investigating this whole thing was already crooked. He was about to get fired, then he quit over him planting evidence. Um, so the police never truly investigated it because it looked like a suicide. They allowed the body to be cremated just 6 days later, and then they waited 30 days to process the gun for fingerprints. So they didn't treat it like it was a homicide. It was said that they had given the gun to Courtney to be melted down, which you don't do after a crime. And then they allowed the crime scene to be torn down and destroyed. Um, the media reported a line from the note, his suicide note, saying that he, quote unquote, I can't live my life like this any longer. That was reported by the media. It's actually not even in the note.
I was
He
gonna
never.
say, I was like, wasn't that one of the controversial? Like, yeah, it wasn't in the note. Interesting.
Yeah, so odd tolerance does build up quick. Also, lethal doses are always based on the weakest humans. Well, actually, the weakest humans, um, it wouldn't take 3 times the lethal dosage to kill them. That is actually for the weakest humans. The dosage that was in Cobain's system for a weak person, a new user, was 10 times the lethal dosage. So, as an avid user, what he had in his system was 3 times the lethal dosage. Um,
Jeez.
yeah, so like the lethal dosage is like 40 milligrams, and he had 1.5 something. Um, yeah, it was like it was a lot more. It was 10 times 40, 48, I think, is the lethal dosage, or not the lethal. Yeah, 40, 48 is 3 times lethal for, or 48 times 10 would be for the unused. Anyway, so yeah, Courtney Love seemed to perpetuate to the media that Kurt was suicidal, and she did this nonstop. She constantly lied to the media, told them false information, and she was also telling the private investigator that she hired. She was telling him false information. Um,
Why lie? Like, if you don't have anything to hide, why freaking lie?
exactly. So when she hired this private investigator, she said that nobody had seen Cobain prior to him going missing, or what was it? Prior to the day that she hired him, which was not in fact the case. Um, Callie, the person that was staying at the house, the day before he went missing, Callie reportedly had seen Kurt.
Really?
Yeah, and Courtney knew about this because she made 8 phone calls to Callie, and she never mentioned this to the private eye.
Jeez. What?
Um, so the autopsy report is not public record, which most places, most areas, an autopsy report is public record. But for some reason, this case, not public record. Um, the lawyer for Kurt and Courtney had stated that the suicide note was a fake and that someone had copied his handwriting.
Really?
Yeah, that was her belief. It's not a fact, but that's what she had stated. Um, there was a police chief that he ended up working in Seattle after the suicide. He thinks that the handwriting changed from the body of the letter to the bottom, suggesting a potential forgery. The majority of the note relates to like the whole body of the note. It relates to music and how he doesn't feel like he's given 100%. He doesn't want to be around it. He wants to get out of it. But only the last four lines of the very bottom addresses any family, and specifically Courtney.
That's wild. Why? So why specifically Courtney?
Right. So this is what I gathered from everything on here. So I feel like Kurt was wanting a change. Well,
Yeah.
before I get into my conclusion, let me show you something. This is a part of this documentary, and I think you guys will find this interesting. It has to do with the shotgun.
Send it.
I'm gonna play it on here. This I thought was interesting. This is another part of the conspiracy that people bring up, and it deals with that directly.
Seattle police reports indicate that Kurt Cobain was found with a shotgun upside down, with his left hand grasping the barrel in a vice-like grip known as a cadaveric spasm. Cadaveric spasm is a form of muscular stiffening that only occurs in death. This occurrence is indispensable to forensic investigation as it clearly shows the precise orientation of the deceased at the exact moment of death. In this case, Cobain's left hand gripping the barrel upside down as he was found. This all seems straightforward until you take into account the shotgun shell was found to Cobain's left side, opposite of where we'd expect to find the shell, on Cobain's right side. The exit chamber is clearly on Cobain's right side if it was fired upside down as it was found, and as the cadaveric spasm confirms. Seattle PD explained the illogical trajectory of the shotgun shell by concluding that the shotgun was fired right side up by Cobain. The shotgun flipped upside down, expelling the shell to his left, to finally rest in the position that it was found. This proposed scenario is impossible, not only because shotguns do not flip upside down when fired, it completely ignores the cadaveric spasm that locks the grip, dictating the precise orientation of the shotgun when fired. In order for the scenario the Seattle police stated occurred, Cobain's wrist would have to bend at an angle that is anatomically impossible. The cadaveric spasm shows the precise orientation of Cobain's hand at the exact moment of death. The only way that the shell could end up in the opposite side of the room is if, when the shell was expelled, hit an obstruction on Cobain's right side and ricocheted to Cobain's left side to land on the jacket. The crime scene clearly shows there was no such obstruction, which then puts into question if Cobain truly was alone in the greenhouse when the trigger was pulled.
So
Physics.
yeah. So for my conclusion on this, I think Kurt was wanting a change in life. If you go read his suicide note, you can find it online. I think he was wanting a change in his life. So like while he was in rehab, Courtney was bombarding him with phone calls, and he never took any of the phone calls. So he kept constantly avoided her phone calls, and his leaving the facility, I believe, was to get away from that. I think he didn't want to be found by Courtney. His leaving he was going to divorce Courtney, and she didn't like that. Number one, like I said, she was controlling and everything, and
Very.
and so the suicide note predominantly talked about him leaving the music scene. That's what most of the body is about. All part of a change to kind of leave the drugs and the influencers and everything. I mean, he was trying to get help. He was trying to get out of the music scene, all that, get away from everything. Even Courtney, who was, as we know, an avid user. He just wanted better for himself and his daughter. Courtney, if they'd gotten a divorce, would have gotten a good settlement. But through his death, she co-inherited millions, if not billions, worth of his estate. like, even royalties and all that stuff. So she's making more with him dead than alive.
Interesting how that works, huh?
So if in a police investigation, a homicide investigation, you look for motive, and I think we just got it right there. But recently, the FBI claims that that it was a suicide, but they only released some photos that, honestly, looking at the photos, they're unimportant photos. They're like not even, they don't show anything about, they're bad angles of the crime scene.
Amateur photos.
Pretty much. And they haven't really stated why that they picked, suicide or whatever. They just haven't. So it's my opinion. Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain.
I can see it. Or what if she hired somebody to do it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. She wasn't there personally, but I think either that Callie guy or somebody else had killed him. I think Callie killed him because of that note that was left on the stairs. And like I said, I'll leave the link to the video in the comments later tonight. So if you guys want to see that documentary, it's on YouTube. It's a really good documentary. However, shotguns kick hard, which could account for the resting position. Well, when the gun's fired, your muscles automatically contract. So he grabs the gun. Boom, boom. I don't think it would have twisted or anything. That's a hard thing to test, really. I mean, not really hard to test, but But after watching that documentary, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that makes sense, and I mean, this guy even has recordings of everything. So that to me is like that piece of evidence that is extremely overlooked. I don't know why, if the government's even like the FBI's even looked or listened to that audio that he has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, the shotgun had a really long barrel.
Huge.
But guys, I hope you enjoyed what we presented here to you tonight. If you want to see some more, we're going to head over to our After Dark page on Patreon and continue this with a couple more juicy deaths, conspiracies. Depends on what you want to call them. Murders. So yeah, if you want to join us over there at patreon.com/Boogeyman Radio, you can sign up over there and enjoy some perks. Some good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be a good time. And
again, I want to say thank you guys for watching. And if you have any ideas for states you want us to cover first in our 10 haunted places, drop them down in the comments below the video, not in the side comments here, but below the video. Pick 3 states and put them down there, and we'll pick those.
Moist and juicy is how I like it. And yes, murder, Claudia.
Murder?
I should just get a murder. Just get a shirt of me.
Hey, we can do that. Murder. We can do that. We can put it on the haunting history on the store.
Boom.
All right, guys. Well, it's past our time. We'll see you guys on the After Dark.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you there.